No,
Oh.
just alright, it's people got me.
I'm not good. It's downloading. Okay, I'm gonna.
Okay, sorry, it's fine. Everybody needs it.
Advantage 1 is debt, Social Security, fund, tax revenue is unsustainable. Model 23, Social Security is unsustainable. Model current form, trust fund, action, surplus, and dwindling. Maybe we're live longer completely. 2033 tax revenues, insufficient majority. Social Security depend heavily on trust funds, depleting expenditure receipts. Federal law coming to conflict bleeding makes it harder, more expensive. It's driving up national debt. Coaching 23 SS contributes deficit national debt far more intertwined. Social Security taxes collect via the payroll tax. Social Security running deficit collecting less than it pays. Government as far from the public increasing the unified budget deficit covers the entire federal budget and debt. Social Security created debt makes it impossible to fund long-term objectives. Lowry 23, we're unsustainable. The budget is changing. Congress is not changing. The cost of benefits is double. Social Security spending $500 billion more than a year than they're taking in. It's no longer a 30-year problem. The banks are hiking rates every time. Rates are at one point it costs much. Extending the Trump tax cuts for 10 years. Debt is corrosive. Increases borrowing costs, reducing investment. We become in the moment of society inadequately funding head start insufficiently investment for the VC. Inadequately trained and numerous forces doing too little investment to maintain leadership in AI biomedicine. Specifically, debt crisis constraints crisis response. Invisible thresholds. Merit planning. Cochrane 20. Debt matter of spending must be financed sooner or later. Debts will be destructive. The danger is that the debt crisis. Imagine another crisis, pandemic, or war. Present funds that is huge recession. Reform the U.S. needs to borrow $10 trillion. Investors and refuse the U.S. and inflated to fill Greece would now go late until they weren't. Nobody expects debt crisis to define limits on long-term strategy matters. Extinction from rampant global instability. Taylor 20. Debt entrenches trends that lead to crisis. Group shaw resources impending ability to respond to threats from leaders. Fail to respond to micro problems before the threshold of crisis and collapse. Our globalized system is likely to make crisis ready. Cost market assumption GDP terms are negative. Policy initiative to be constrained. Unmet expectations will amplify instability. National terrorism will turn to WD code reveal fragility. Banks announce QE public liquidity in the markets, ushering into these developments of fundamentally older civilization as you know it. Independently, fears of insolvency drive populism. Taurus scale 18. Politicians who warn baby boomers about bank Social Security declaring these programs to reduce reignite policies of aging with older person motivated by fear, anger, and anxiety. The growing crisis of economic disparities among the elderly create political changes of aging without a roadmap to mitigate these divides. We may find greater resentment and political retribution. Millennials face a fading American dream and wonder if they will ever receive a Social Security check, which increases the chance of accidental nuclear war. Shem 23. Populists speak differently. Language includes combative confrontational discourse. Release of nuclear policies take place under procedure carried out to head of state. Rely on words that make sense. Scrutinize effectiveness deterrence only after governments consensus. Everything politicians and social media understand viewpoint and given authority, regardless of content, misunderstanding, high stakes between governments and increased likelihood of nuclear strikes. The plan solves. It funds a Social Security trust fund via a sovereign wealth fund, which ensures stability and benefits. Carol 22. Simple solution has been tied and tested by several modern economies who have about increased protection, wealth and stability. Retirement fund systems. U.S. fund payroll taxes expected to exhaust its surplus in 2034. Fund does invest in bonds earning 2.5% interest. Norwegian fund under the 10.9% immediate steps. U.S. government takes now without increasing contribution rates. Fund made stable with increased benefits. Norwegian fund solely exists to fund retirement. GBIF exists for retirement of Japan. External amount of money managers are closely monitored. PDF managers fund placing emphasis on long-term stability. Diversity is a key element. There are different asset classes. Effective way of increasing assets would be to allow the fund to use 2.9 trillion cash reserve in investor private equities. Debt, real estate, Fed oversees the investment. The Fed is always earns money, makes expand the scope of the market committee beyond time to revamp the Social Security Fund. It checks ruinous debt. Carol 23. Most pressing national security issue for the U.S. addiction to spending overwhelming debt. CBO projected interest costs would total $399 billion. Triple cost over upcoming decade. U.S. refuses to pay tax itself to pay for goods and services. Deficit spending is unsustainable. It's not room to lead the class U.S. economy. As to U.S. invest funds and worldwide equities earning investments considered by the state that owns the associate state level. 20 states have found different ways to meet obligations by establishing wealth funds that benefit citizens. Alaska Permanent Fund disperses a dividend. New Mexico has a wealth fund as well as investment in equities and real estate to provide generations. Change would be necessary to this way. The federal government compensated assuming U.S. wealth fund base was $100 trillion translated into investment income of $19 trillion. Advantage 2 is investment. The plan unlocks massive untapped capital through a sovereign wealth fund. Cooper 23. Social Security will run out, fund will run out, unable to tap benefits options. Either cut benefits or find new money. Proposal come from casting and keen to create investment fund. Profits good. Fund benefits of public demographics of the population age thinks what that means for fewer workers available, reduce the amount of available investment, grant higher rate of return than T-bonds would. Harness American capital income. Average total return of S&P 500 is 11.3%. Remember how few have noticed it's free return sitting on the table. They're working examples of social wealth funds all over the world that allows for robust growth. Several internal links. One, inflation proofs the economy and ensures counter-cyclical stability. Shields 10. S&P government spending through the stabilization, avoiding the pressures on productive capacity of the economy and and inflation investing in riskier assets is reducing cost of reserve. The U.S. uses assets to insulate expenditure from volatility of their revenue, particularly in liquidity borrowing, by using SWS assets to increase spending authorities, smoothing cycles, especially important to the large shocks, financial crisis, and injecting liquidity can lead to inflation. But if the SWS seen foreign revenues are used to push foreign policy assets, the exchange rate will appreciate less than otherwise, leaving upward pressure on the inflation by increasing returns. SWS create fiscal space for spending sustainability. 2. Effective investments promote innovation. You're on 23. Data indicates SUS plays a crucial role in wealth. US does not have a federal fund. SUS enables stabilizing the economy, diversifying SUS, mitigate fluctuations, help reduce external shocks, and trade resilient financial ecosystem. SUS for long-term investment, enabling sustainable growth, approach to wealth generation, garnered influence in global markets, fast resources, and long-term horizons, position them on an international stage, contribute to liquidity and stability. Their actions help seek investment strategies. SUS drive megatrends by investing in sectors aligned with megatrends, foster innovation, technological advancement, sustainable development, seeks to maximize control over returns, and joint venture fund, facility knowledge sharing. 3. It embeds long-termist economic thought. Lansley 18. This new instrument would embed longer-term thinking, economic policy, but I'm in short-termism, boosted immediate consumption, the expensive future prosperity precedes speed consumption, thus concentrating gains would have to be revisited plan for today, but not tomorrow. Collecting, saving would ensure a better balance between current consumption and building for the future, taking time to build a better economy that independently prevents economic collapse and ensures sustainable growth. Golden 14. The global crisis brought into focus the shift to longer-term solution necessary. Governments need no longer view gridlock undermines action. Today's global challenges, increasing short-termism, and pervades governments are report outlines principles to advance future generations, promotes resilient and sustainable growth. Short-termism can perpetuate instability, business as usual, leave a damaging legacy performance metrics, encourage toward on firm prices and risk taking rather than value creation. Are skewed by investors who want a quick return that have little concern about long-term prosperity and increasing number of are key to pressing towards long-term key proposed reduce pressures on excessively frequent reporting and excessive reliance on particular models. You need to rethink governance systems to priority to long-term health and look beyond reporting. Planet will reward the planet, otherwise decline causes great power war. June 22. Studies explore how troubled economy takes its aggressive increases in probability of conflict and battles. Leaders divert attention away from the ills of great rally left like thanks bad economy, driving forces to incentivize conflict, targeting American provide support. There's little to justify action. Leaders may target rising power Ukraine SES attributed action against India, Japan, and Taiwan economy. A current outlook is uncertain. We should be considered about troubled economies. Lead to use force drive aggressive stance and empirics prove. Leaders divert attention from slowing economies by provoking conflict. Bans 21. Slow growth makes it hard to keep the public happy. Fearing people, leaders desperately try to grab resources, making action to crush for ruin regime. US economic surge and imperial expansion rush from fallen into some document material physics on invaded countries. Brands of paradise after expansion, undertaking intervention patterns. Clear wars come. Defense does not assume the post-COVID landscape. Level 21 from Cuba to Africa to Cuba to Haiti. Practice of sweeping global perfect storm for economic hardships with COVID inflamed or foreshadowing global tinderbox swimming in stitches more from the broader uprising to Latin American air trip oil over 37 country face movements. Shocks where the cohesion any severe shock bring potential for breakdown in order. Alternatives to growth destroy multilateralism and cause war. Answer 21. IR and degrowth will be the assets of government. States nominated others to ensure the survival of peace and interlude war cooperation is possible. Liberal creates economic independence as a peace mechanism. War becomes unprofitable. Economic growth essentially keep the peace. Tension with growth is self-explanatory. Growth must be abandoned. IR reduces centralized system. The reducing growth required to maintain remain competitive. Competitive degrowth requires decentralization of power through shortly slashing to the evolution of power unless humanity is united under degrowthphobia. The puzzle of how we interact beyond borders will remain ridiculous too soon. Or also disappear. Nukes go puff as we degrow. Transparency, perceived legitimacy of the fund are key to solvency. Hockett 18. Suspicion SCF is made under pressure to defend legitimacy, both domestic and international. SCF legitimacy not on financial performance, also on integrity from interference made centered on organizational transparency and accountability. Funds need to be legally enshrined, otherwise they lack diversification, investment coordination, and are perceived as politicized, hurting stabilization. OMFIF 20 or uncoordinated transfers damage of funds. Credibility as an investor produce the perception that the fund is politicized, jeopardize stability, access assets beyond its borders. These urging significant global holdings transparency and design report funds that are legally distinct from the central bank can be to our politicization and poor governance. MBA housed within central bank maintaining diversified allocations, credible investment producing stable tolerance and allowing a fund to credibly diversify. Global scale consolidated balance sheet remains important for stability. Key tasks for central break plan right now.
Yeah, sure.
Therefore, the United States federal government should expand Social Security with a sovereign wealth fund. I have 45 seconds.
Yeah.
The plan guarantees macroeconomic stabilization, but clear transparency and oversight are key to avoid ruinous corruption. Kimball 19. A fund depends on designing for avoiding corruption and incompetence. Social Security is an efficient way to establish a fund. There's a better oversight at the federal level because people will be looking at action, excellent coverage nationally because they make state corruption easier. A national fund can make accurate reconciliation role state level and are likely to take on the role of powerful. So LGB fund can help U.S. invest during recessions through encouraging private investment, getting return on stabilization funded by treasury bills, equates to a fraction of GDP on a global scale. Conserve stabilization even its mandate for the U.S. is stabilizing the U.S. would stabilize the world because of the importance of the U.S. with care to avoid corruption by restricting funds to investing in funds that have no voting rights pay higher than any agency. Integration of the trust fund is key. Template 11. Most successful SCBS managed social insurance fund assets to keep decision making and political while maintaining accountability. Countries increasing incorporated social insurance reserve fund include Australia, Canada, China, Norway. Funds pre-funded to mitigate financial issues raised by demographics.
Alright, I'll send those out.
Actually, can you send the plan as well?
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait for that.
Okay, those are both sent.
I haven't gotten them yet, pretty good.
Mhm.
Okay. Who does the plan and how is it funded?
Federal government through a sovereign wealth fund.
Okay. I guess how does the sovereign wealth fund work? How does it allocate? Who gets expanded benefits? Where does the money come from?
Well, the money comes from the sovereign wealth fund. It invests in assets which generate returns. I think that answers your question. Was there another part?
I guess, okay, so the money comes, okay, that makes sense. The Taylor evidence talks about things like armed conflicts and terrorists getting access to weapons. I guess, why do you think people, giving people social security benefits would deter them if they're already motivated by these armed conflicts?
Well, the internal link isn't giving people benefits. It's preventing a debt crisis. We read evidence that says that debt is unsustainable and prevents the government's ability to respond to every single potential risk they can face.
Okay, the Costran evidence, yeah, I get that that's the internal link. I guess the Taylor evidence does not, it says that debt entrenches to unsustainable trends.
Yeah.
Where do you think you've read evidence that says that is what motivates people to, you know?
It's not about motivating terrorists. It's not like terrorists are motivated by debt. Terrorists are motivated in the status quo because they're terrorists. Debt means that we can't combat them.
Yeah, it's crisis response.
Sure. The SHIELD evidence says that in like the unhighlighted portions, the actions of the sovereign wealth funds can influence other dimensions of their economies and sometimes even in troublesome directions. It says that depending on the size of assets that the sovereign wealth fund has under management, operations, investment, has implications. It could throw off like balance sheets. What does the AF do to minimize those effects?
Well, we've read solvency evidence that says that we would invest in sound assets. Our cards talk about things.
I get that. The SHIELD evidence also talks about how sovereign wealth funds have already existed.
Well,
what do you think the plan does that is different?
Well, it talks about small sovereign wealth funds and sovereign wealth funds in other countries which have been successful. It's just that there's potential for sovereign wealth funds to be mismanaged, which will most likely apply to whatever counterplan you're going to read rather than the AF. Our evidence cites things like the S&P 500,
I guess
which
what
has
is
reliable returns.
That doesn't answer the question of what the new sovereign wealth fund does that, like, you know, would overcome these sort of
Oversight,
barriers.
democratic accountability, voting rights for people who get Social Security benefits, solves all of those warrants. The empirics that the 1 and C will probably talk about like Saudi Arabia and other non-democratic countries who have sovereign wealth funds do not apply. The planned sovereign wealth fund would be modeled after Norway, which has been successful.
That's fine. We have 37 seconds. We'll use it.
Sure.
That prep towards the main stairway, but before you get there.
We're gonna send another one.
Why don't you send it? You have an order while it's getting here.
Yeah, order is 11 off, then debt, then investment.
We gotta wait for truth anyway.
We had people on our team like bring us I brought me medicine. I think they brought like 2 dosages and like one of them just doesn't work at all.
Oh,
So
okay. Like Dayquil or something?
It was like a Walgreens like version
Oh,
of something.
Off-brand Dayquil.
Okay. Order is 11 off, then debt, then investment. MBA, are you good?
Yeah, I just downloaded it.
I'm open. Okay.
Triple, give me a second. Yeah, you and Tyler.
You know what? We'll just approximate.
Let's do it.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm
Okay, cool. First up is TOC across taxing. You don't hit 66 about spending and taxing. Vote negatively talks. Taxes calibrates limits on funding. Calibrates constant year of debates. Next up is the politics side. Johnson repeats speakers are disclosed. Discuss dependent hinges on moderate GOP support. People in Carney, Tony Johnson, seated passing it for officer. Entertaining of GGO, waiting for the demonstration of those MP based prompt action after GOP based party deficits like the back against going forward. SS reform trades off travel to the Republicans are reduce benefits of deficits. Savings are shown in the Republicans. Been for years that the Republicans had deficits. Republicans had told. Logical reforms that deficits are united. The makers will be despite enormous energy policy language. Johnson's bipartisan China policies keep a 23 80s progress, offending up the strategy of the sort of bipartisan against the workers, and data driven as well, like started way corporate security report, the African respect to China. Taiwan did China introduced bills on the bill of China Biden as race solves Taiwan war that escalates House and Bush in 23. Wars on a regional level will not give a positive translation rather than belief that administration will resist last Beijing. That was reason that the calculation makes shift the transfer be clear, undisciplined, right? Resolve it, likely more aggression, opportunity for Beijing. Next up, the CBO pick without including the Congressional Budget Office. The United States government should expand Social Security with the sovereign wealth funds. It completes FR requires the CBO. CBO this allocation ruins federal budgeting that guarantees extinction from financial crisis, disasters, terror, and future pandemics. The capital interrupts current CBO patterns. Rubber 21 Christopher project terror emergency to city or await the pandemic. It's also important proposing fund about extra new base government response crisis maker while CBO is going over legislation spending extra based on CBO based on responsible for law or the economy and study makes standard value to be all the CBS going without useful given the urgency extra crisis man physical response that comes to stabilize society and the experiencing loss and damage to the press include disasters floods crop damage financial instability and other extra tourism covers these factors social structure viability of the open resources and budget central next up to the courts the expand Social Security with the sovereign wealth fund in the 49th of November, states the United States federal judiciary, ensure foreclosing expanding Social Security with the sovereign wealth fund in Minnesota. It means throughout the northern states Wasn't phrases for in should be constantly throughout the Cameron solves and breaks the PG that prevents accidental nuclear accidents lower. Intent, deep interpretation losses, impact of disaster, nuclear, and non-political construction, rebuilding to assess proper safeguards for the whole wide many community. Humanity will ensure future AC planet and involved with the surface of the explained because the government helps assess the government court of insurance, the court lawyers actual additional profits, no position, interject the court into the security matters society. Next off is the Constitution of the United States Limited Constitutional Convention, called for by at least 34, the states ratified by at least 38, and should expand Social Security with the sovereign wealth fund, solve the avoid politics, cover 21 constitutional parts of the states, convention ratified, I think, Congress would definitely when that was once shy of the convention, Congress started the good work today, Prime Minister Runaway, Article 5 for the purposes. Next up is the packing counterline. The United States Congress and Executive branch should announce support and unanimously bring legal action that enlarges Social Security with the sovereign wealth fund. The Supreme Court should in the 6-week decision reverse an action that grants the political branch lacks sufficient discretion to modify fiscal law. The House of Representatives and Senate should schedule a vote. Expect the Supreme Court by 4 justices. It competes and solves the court's reversal. Will be received as explicit overreach. They'll look to retaliate by packing the courts equal to 22 packing. The proportional extreme behavior irrelevant to retaliation causes court packing the plan from eliminating the order for blocking and judicial extremism kept 21 courts. Courts will be legitimate, given the legitimate partisan judges that suspend government undermining and opposition shall be governed. The VRA on the show, wave of restriction shall shift to the court, to the right, packing can foster governance court, legitimacy increase if the court, as a rebuttal to them out of the justice refrain, the reform by discretion, reforms will be able to convince the public practice to office the court, the obstructive public agenda, extinction, Patrick 20 Union, next of all the 50 companies of the bottom, so the other student cooperative of the big, problems against academic crisis, health terrorism, terrorism, immigration, and immigration is the humanity under the rule of law and justice, no limitation on the power of the public lose confidence, justice, America's role, the world of security is well considered by the state or ensure respect for refuge. Usually core packing is way out of logic counterbalance. Next up is SSA trade off the set, SSA capacities expanding, Wagner 20 SSA, deputy higher top hiring efforts were making progress even inside level reservation shelter. The raising in the track of fiscal year in 2019, 6 for the direct authority is new hires will scoring back and improve service. The plan trades off Apple to the SSA's mature 11% of the other benefits. How decision has to be made distributed in front of research professionals because the employers need to be reach their adequate research. The ability to do the jobs completely work to take their toll. Unchecked Social Security fraud facilitates terrorism. Web 2 investigation identify large number of you happily users and false identities excuse you. Unemployment law loading the credit cards and the legitimate because stolen the number is not usual to see as a sensor provide cover for legal activities extinction Satterfield 23 enormous Al-Qaeda still top of America's representing work to the nuclear weapons with Iran as the top sponsor of terror. This relationship between Iran so Al-Qaeda attack worrisome caused by growing anti-US sentiment. Next off is the rationality K, the ask new Keynesian paradigm of growth and frames the economy within a system of circulation producing socio-technological wars of economic advances, law and status quo, economic relations, eventual love and transformation, economic things, economic with the war battles, circulation, socio-technological wars of economic into the economy, which measures with tax coverage, sort of present and money national economy, technical scientific side of government practice, and non-economists that these are economic knowledge involved in everyday models of economic models of the world and techniques of economics will be manipulated economics innovation calculation methods such as object of politics as an object that creates neoliberal commitments to share matchings within field models of economic jurisprudence, which makes ecological and social collapse inevitable. Vote now to remap legal arrangements. Kennedy 20, where are we now? It's technical AI, intelligence, enough land, ceaseless wars, recession, wild warming, inequality, decline, populism, managerial class, assembly authority, credibly taking credit, representing here, the gap was open to the way legal think about law when has to struggle when they engage in difficult over laws, rules, economic and political, and conflict illegal preconception such as global political economy, and encourage state and corporate neutral, identify the position of legal coercion, no things are government law, emphasis concepts, and concepts of equality, and ensuring hierarchy shift rules governing acts and their returns to different activity, alter what is higher level activities, no order, intentional struggle with these rules without a back health, makes it easy to see what is the domination that has such identifies openings, critical for every average, those and all states, logical, direction society, tracing the struggle, there are also weakest, shelter, legal region, little context, and attack, collective amnesia about real change, what is not done by one system is cause struggle on the terrain. Next off is the states counterpart the 50 states and all relevant territories should condition cooperation with federal initiatives on extending social security for sovereign wealth fund, reasserting state sovereignty, counterbalance governance failures, extinction, make all and face economic security, challenge for proliferate and create ISIS and gender warming. There's a greater problem that risk failures within use. There's failing governance and transfer from the states so much sorrow the makes targets of lobbying good and then negotiations impossible. It's created out of the analysis of all this research just to make failures of philosophy. Never get solutions to societal challenges if we want to address the cost of power the powers of the states. As dysfunction get worse. Next off is the advantage counterpart the Minnesota Commission establish a sovereign wealth fund and something it solves the case in the net benefit is all the decides now the debt advantage crossing past threshold should have triggered their impact. It's less than 10%. Just over 20% over the government social security funds. 9% of the total debt. No debt impact at Antonelli 24, which is required liabilities to debt insurance liabilities. Go down you need the private sector leveraging up the financial risk. Oh wait, I have the government borrow. If we have this, we have assets the government can tax the stock market and companies. We can outgrow debt that downgrades or bonds sell losses. Never something needed to worry about. The external factors like rates the Fed and these companies investing. How do they talk about debt? No terminal impact in Cochrane. We get new answers now. The thumbprints of populism, misinformation, collection of perception of economic of election insecurity and xenophobia, populism, discussion. Wayland 24 analysis how it's possible to not show probability consider all set of populism. The research found that keep 40 public governments only 70. Push authoritarian rule rules. Alchemists less come to the fear local populism. Consider restricting the checks and balances or for officers forces mobilize those. Populism feel happened to my check service or my happens before damage. No war from populism. In Ferguson 16, our time is so bloody fascists when our villages now we see today. We have regained the heights of inequality and populism now should not be considered harbinger of war. Populism not for me. Many governments are populist interests in war. The land isolation. It's a narrow from globally from Turkey, Hungary, and France. Now investment structural shocks make an impact on level. Perkins 24. We have lived living a fake cycle. We have seen future structures, including rotation, spending, looking at social shocks. Ukraine and the Russian pent-up damage, revenge spending, demands, value, this fashion, inflation, China, manufacturing, industrial, getting relationships wrong, intestinal, geopolitical, deglobalization, game for shocks and countries, will create volatility, generation to GDP, 08 and COVID and every other recession, stop the plan, causes rate hikes, collapses the economy, Rome 16 swift, trajectory, monetary policy, and the responsible benefit increase, transfer benefit increase, benefits are raise aggregate spending 1 to 1, highly statistically significant rate of sharply following increase, the rest of the policy because we increase stimulated the economy, call for trajectory responsible, aggregate substitute, responsible benefit increases, economic decline doesn't cause war, all 20, I don't think economic impact war for the first cause more than the US is every 40 and 20 wars of the economy and national. We just work for one uncertainty, no matter if it's not war. Quickly, she was success, motivation, security, not getting so to prevent not conquest depression is one factor in really significant economies. Like the effective probability, global recessions make it inevitable. Rate hikes slaps the economy into your hands in 20 feet. Interest rate hikes, recession, 30 thesis, stress, commercial weather. Rate hikes increase global recession, hypothesis, and inflation. This is the recession results in the support of the hypothesis. There's a positive high significant higher recession rates, rate higher plan signals recession.
Okay. Are you good?
Yeah.
And counterplan text.
Yeah.
And the card and stuff. I think those are getting sent.
Yeah.
Are you sending them right now? Do you want to wait for promise?
Hold on, let me just
Yeah.
type it up. Sorry. Counterplan text is set.
You good?
Yeah.
The Johnson-China disad, the internal link part is like he advocated a policy of trade. What do you think the internal link is between Johnson's speakership and China containment, cooperation, whatever?
Yeah, the beta evidence indicates that the only way to get Republicans on board to sort of deter China and craft policies that can deter China is via, Johnson's speakership. He's concerned about China.
This card, I just read the whole thing in 2 seconds because there's 5 words highlighted, and it does not say that it's key to get Republicans on board.
Disagree. It says that Johnson advocating expanding trade with Taiwan to counter China. Obviously, if Johnson is not the speaker, he cannot.
Johnson advocated it.
Yes.
That's not the same thing as key to get Republicans on board. Do you agree with that?
Well, if he's the chairman of the House, he can.
Okay, that sounds like huge inference. Status of the off. Status of the off.
Status quo is always an option against new undisclosed affirmatives.
Okay. Which the commission's counterpoint was the only off you skipped, right? Hidden reasons to write the team besides T, a spec, stuff like that. Okay. Rate hikes collapse the economy. Have you read a link to that, or is that just an inevitability?
Romer.
Read the Romer card?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the warrant?
Yeah, the Fed perceives the increase in Social Security benefits as more demand in the economy, so they think they have to hike rates.
Okay. I guess the K. What's the alt? What does it do?
Could look like legal imaginaries translating experiences that people have from debate.
Can you keep going? Explain a little bit more in detail, please.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative, it just basically advocates for legal remapping. It says that we're currently,
I guess, like, what does the map look like post alt?
not using rationalist predictions.
Okay, can you give me an example of, like, how you would change rationality?
Yeah, you could use things like, human happiness as an indicator as opposed to things
How's
like
that not
GDP.
rational? Like, we like human happiness, we'll try to maximize
It's
it.
not
That sounds kind of rational.
That's not economically rational. Like,
Okay, so the only instance of economic rationality is like we need to maximize the dollar amount in every instance,
No, I
regardless
mean, like,
of anything
if,
else.
like,
That's the link.
Huh?
That's the link is like we only
No,
maximize
like
dollar amounts.
there's indicators that the 1AC uses that prove that the 1AC is invested
So is
in
an
economic
indicator's
ration-
bad, K?
Huh?
Isn't you just said happiness is an indicator? How do you quantify
No,
human
you
happiness?
asked me what the alternative would look like and what indicators you could use
Okay.
aside from
No,
that.
I'll
That
begin
was
with
my
big.
answer.
Does the alt include the plan? Ever?
What do you mean?
Does the alt include the plan? Is it a floating pick?
No.
Could it involve the action of the plan?
No.
Okay. SSA disad. This card is like some terrorists have used social security numbers. If there's a terrorist in another country that builds a bomb, what does social security numbers have to do with any of that?
Yeah, the reason that they're able to acquire that bomb is because of funding, which is unlimited if the Social Security, if the SSA
Ooh,
is not able
what?
to detect fraudulent people claiming benefits.
Okay.
Then anyone can pretend to be anyone else and
Tim.
claim benefits.
Good.
Yeah.
You're sending.
No.
No, we
Oh,
started.
oh. Okay.
709 to AC 7. Okay, is everyone good in order?
Ooh, give me 1 second to finish down.
Yeah. Okay, body good.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the debt advantage, the investment advantage, topicality, the Social Security pick / advantage counter plan, or the sovereign wealth fund, or yeah, Social Security pick, the NGA counter plan, the CBO pick, the court packing counter plan, Minnesota, rationality kit, Johnson, speaker dissent, SSA dissent. Okay, is anyone not ready? Okay, sounding good. Yeah, okay.
What is doing no defense evidence not assumed by the crisis response was what our 187 evidence to key. Their evidence just about the economic effects of debt, not about the crisis response effects. Is what our evidence says. Now the no terminal impact is not specific to our specific impact about population, which says that population will escalate due to weapons of all cause. What is the evidence says? Retirement and security is a key internally because older voters will escalate with nuclear weapons. Now the next impacts a constraint is not about the use of nuclear weapons. Which our evidence says that populace is more likely to rely on a confrontational rhetoric, which makes the likelihood of nuclear use more higher likelihood that the no war card is wrong. Now the inevitable globally stuff our evidence only talks about the U.S. nukes plus the examples of us don't have nukes except for France. Second advantage. Collapse inevitable is wrong. The what is the evidence says that the plan is critical to stabilize to avoid these recessionaries that you avoid to inject resilience into the economy and injects long-termism, which they dropped. That's significantly the reason why we solve all these wars over COVID wrong. What do you see? Lab evidence says that uniquely the current climate is prime for climate, which means and that assumes these wars. Now the Romer evidence is wrong. Rate tax terminated now 418 or support 418. No rate cuts in 2024. That's stock rates. Better raise our rates given inflation low, quite high rates. And Bitcoin's IPOs Federal Reserve walking back to government given the inflation market remain higher. And consumer remains in a mood to spend sentiment rose by 1%. The internal is thumped. Rates are incredibly high now. Have been this time before. Inflation wrong. One. The SWS all smooth spending, stabilized capital injections with foreign investment, stable rent, stable inflationary pressure. That's the Shields evidence. 2 is that the management Lou at L10. Volatility for evidence the challenge for inflation funding and withdrawal rules of isolation, but limits effects of demand and stabilization to cover the liabilities are cyclical downward stage terms resources and the economy and permanent base weekend absorption for public resources is strong. The economy is resilient. Rate hikes goals to 24. Possible the current have little impact. Rate hikes seem to have caused economy justice and higher interest rates and setting more SSB 500 applies to life sectors and the economy is less capital since the real impact of higher rates on companies and made them more efficient. The Romer card is wrong. Reduce 18. Major concern regarding Romer is the link between inflation and increased benefits, macroeconomic developments may be leading increase to people with house inflation, automatic connection, donation of working in relation with the increased benefits, long-term running back economic development, Romer, external challenge undertaking with the countercyclical motivation, the next to the global, the world card is wrong, and not assume the current climate, which I want to see evidence says is key, that's the lab, and John Gambler's global recessions is wrong, because the one to see evidence says we would stabilize global economy, which solves recessions, taxes. And German can be either can be the redistribution being able to achieve the tax control, but they practice very little redistribution should be a tax benefits to be key to low inequality. That's best AF ground or interpret taxes and transfer makes that what are the app B is predictability, R prescribes rural redistribution and reflects on the budget action work. C is states, deficit spending is key to be states on a stage dominating product for no office only has 2 apps, states policy gun funding stats, other words check views. The pick. Perm do both solves an evidence, 2 perm the economy, 3 does not solve estimate advantage, integration of the trust fund is key to effective government is not finished, simply guard here. And ensure sustainability, that's just our modeling portfolios due to the loans affects is best performing and funds exist longer term life of an impact of financial rights in any plan as an active as rate of return 5.9% essentially and point market timing estimated yield high returns beginning increasing equity investments in volatile stock markets starting in 06 and 07 and 29 and 43 the NGA counterpart. First, no internal anus, spell for single instance of resistance not solved. Broader state authority be no impact. The only line that mentions states better being governance conceived all cause that it takes 30 years to resolve. That's the one to see. Millock is inserted for reference. 2. Part of the counterments way the plan can be done. 3. Part of the after the counterment other issue solves the indeterminate of it. Size and other text. Counterments must be textually functioning about background in education. 4 cannot solve a legal codification. FIO says legally enshrining sovereign wealth funds critical to solvency. Otherwise, they will fail and stabilize the economy out of fear of politicization. B is the counterment intrudes external actors in the plan that next transparency and legitimacy, which are key to solvency. That's the Hawk evidence. C is federal resistance. It kills the counterment guard achieve. The federal position is there as a challenge misconduct, except a little bit in the local governments refuse. The resistance equates withdrawal support for federal demolish, test, publish, crackdown, and misconduct is fight a sub-federal resistance per do both. It solves the internal benefit CDO. Perm to the counterment's plan plus the knock-off benefit with no card for effort requires CDO. We can do answer the entire counterment when they establish competition in the block. No internal single exclusion will not spill over to broader exclusion of the CBO. Perm to the plan excludes CBO from another policy. It solves the internal benefit. Net benefit. No impact. The card says nothing. It's not a reason why any of this cause extinction. If they read once again, new answers insofar as the CBO is required for physical British reason. That's deficit of the counterment because it will not solve if they don't include the CBO. Core packet. Perm to the counterment, perm to both, perm to the plan and expands code, it solves a benefit, perm to the plan, and schedule a vote which is sufficient to deter the courts. So pack with the Republicans says no, none of the says the courts counterment ensures Democratic court, which means it cannot solve the internal. The House votes it down if there's any chance to get packs with the Dems. No packing by the city veto. Argument truth. Fundamentally, will only pack the court, and we politicize it forever. Not healthy. GP hates packing. Is 6.1. Insert the graph. It breaks the legitimacy, perturns the benefit, Rosa 23. Pun is regulating the Supreme Court expanding the Supreme Court violence as to be defense rule of law and previous constitutional concern aside with pick back the Supreme Court that becomes too unwieldy and symbolically unrecognizable and most academic treatment of explain court back and will lead to a shift for that developers finally include and so large legitimacy opposite heavy pointed retaliation is a reason to not pursue. Con. Perm to both conduct countermeasures of battlefield on person and certain judges deficit not reward voter for education in ground 3. Perm to the countermeasure should is not certain rich from the steam. Only this authority services and supporters should the Supreme Court employees should is not convey impaired obligation no more than ought and should is writing in plain effect not. I mean they should refer to future round 8. Should look at the future within your possible future events 5 cannot solve ability certainty. First challenges and links harder rice very team. There is nothing in the Prince Commission to be sent later on this none of the Constitution, gerrymandering, and polarization. The rules of the Commission will be heroes of Bach, and it speaks of neutral and the executive about having court authority settle disputes opening, prosecution and protective battles that threaten democracy, uncertainty. There's no process application if the eliminate Viata does not solve because never on the card. It says it solves those links at a benefit because it makes Johnson look inept, Minnesota. Perm to the counterment, it means within, base swing on. The representative and limits of the term within the boss, a place that follows the new express for legend of president and senate, around surrounded by limits and road for who cannot solve crossway, and the deficits from the other counterment, the lack of coherent reasoning means it's not enforceable to against 95. Last thing, the decision on the quality of receiving house reasoning applying the law require the message of value prior question to be as such treatable for guidance for the future case, 3 permanent and solve and the counterment of other issues solves and net benefit. I inserted the text below 4 permanent counterment, then the plan solves the internal benefit, 5 no net benefit even though the PKD the drone suits it tossed out Rosa Light. Instrumental various laws sustaining, particularly the drones are targeted ladies and refugees, armies and different like standing up as a climber, who was always a target that was not able to shot off a lot of federal court to see relief the many starting themselves in the lawsuit witnesses are classified in member we style and able to establish beyond no conjecture, rationality again. Framework we African verse links to the plans that give it up all key difference education debate is game no minutes perm to both perm to the all no link for Keynesianism. The estimate research rights to the proletariat with the wealth creation rational thought is inevitable link back to it and links to character of the African elite. Modern economics is empirical using data economics are not enthrall. Neoclassical economics are required by people rational and students uncertainty. People know the economic concept of market by government and no free market mark the card market the alternative cannot solve it not spill up to do anything and it includes the after that's the voting issue the elite more perf economies reject the regime and vote for new args new what are args if they extend it this is a horrible okay Johnson's already be episode with damn Yang 4-5. The years fighting about past the war, and then after was by college voting against breaking the House rule that sparks the first time between driving hundreds of men, arms of Democrats and Ukraine shut for a team. House and coalescing behind Johnson plans to provide assist in numerous steps hey, they're willing to help House GOP leaders. Raskin Schultz Hoyer said that he expects the party to back the bills of Democrats will also likely to back Cheney, the single member motion to vacate Mark Card, vacate the plan that is pushed by a bipartisan group of senators. That's a Cooper evidence which they dropped and they want to see Democrat ousting for 414. David Johnson is a process to oust him. The Jeffrey said Democrats would not want to see the speaker fall as a result of doing the right thing. Internal assumption is not why McCarthy replaced his first time one invasion perception alone should have triggered invasion House irrelevant for time one insurance fine and still has a duty to solve no time one more bonds 24. Every time one treated as a form of unleashed prediction have to become a common currency and overview of all alarm all legal poor access consistently the rate risk below cannot be competent when the war which keeps down the risk. Mark the card at risk as said. There's a resource crisis now, ASG, FG23. As the state element of fast staffing and funding crisis, over a decade of commercial funding is AGT crisis. Operating bodies decreased by 170%, hiring staff by 50%, staffing levels reached 25-year lows, state that works agency to work on staff attrition high, realize growing more backlog service plays, folks leaving agency being training stains, employers are not compensating for efficiency, not unique, the beneficiaries are increasing now, fiat solves and non-intrinsic, ensures proper resource and funding, the estates focus on hiring, overpayments, and fixed cost, thumbsy, the linked internals nonsense, for 20 years, it's post 9/11, if you're mongering, Social Security numbers are not key to terrorist financing, not back terrorists, and not capable to cause extinction.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Theoretical reasons to reject the team.
Con. Most of them reject the argument. There's not. I didn't read Condo.
You didn't read comment. Okay.
Yeah.
Advantage 1. If populists were so concerned about Social Security, why wouldn't they have elected someone to fix it?
Well, we think like they'll elect leaders who claim they will fix Social Security, but those leaders will like capitalize on their support and then like launch nuclear weapons or use confrontational nuclear rhetoric.
I guess there's a bunch of other issues that populists care about, like they think elections.
Well, I mean, you haven't read any cards that explain those other issues. You read evidence in the 1AC, the Torres evidence that says Social Security is a unique issue because a lot of elderly people fear their benefits will be cut in the quo. The only way to solve that is via the plan. That prevents them from voting populists, which are a huge voting bloc.
What evidence says that, preventing elderly, like populist sentiment is key to
Torres.
preventing all populist leaders? Torres?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I guess the econ or the investment advantage, what is unique about what's the scenario for economic decline causing war?
Well, we think that the sovereign wealth fund uniquely just prevents all threats to the economy and injects resilience in the
I'm
economy.
asking about the impact.
The impact? Oh, how does it cause war?
Yeah.
We've read scenarios about diversion specifically. We think that if there
So
were...
like if the U.S.'s economy is collapsing, we'll just first...
It doesn't have to be U.S. I mean, we've read like global recession impacts.
So who
The 1AC evidence says the sovereign wealth fund would stabilize the global
So
economy.
who goes to war?
Anyone. Labit evidence cites a number of different regions, the Middle East, Africa. It says conflicts between like great powers, Russia, China,
Okay,
US,
sure.
any of those could escalate.
T-taxes, why does, quote, reflecting how the budget works actually matter?
Well, we think that that's like the most, we think that's the most predictable way to interpret the topic. Like the way
Reflecting
the
how
federal
the
budget
budget
works
actually
is not that you like enact a tax and then you tie it to a federal program.
Okay, sure.
It's
What's a
you,
transfer?
you fund the plan, what?
What's a transfer?
Like cash payments to individuals?
Cash payments. Okay.
Yeah, like a Social Security transfer.
Yeah. I guess. Did you kick the debt stuff?
What?
Did you kick the debt stuff in the first page?
No.
Okay. Why is Social Security's like 9% of debt? Why is the plan key?
Well, our 1AC evidence says that Social Security, that like in the future, Social Security will eat away at our ability to like respond to crises.
Okay, sure. I guess the Cochrane evidence was written in 2020. We've crossed a bunch of thresholds.
Okay,
for being
the
national.
Carroll evidence was
Why?
written in 2024 and gives the same warrants. Like you haven't read evidence to refute this. You've read generic populism defense that does not apply. Or debt defense.
No, but both of the cards are from 2020 and says that
Carroll,
there's
the
a
Carroll
visible
cards at the
threshold.
bottom of the advantage are
So what is the
2023.
threshold that leads to crisis?
Like a number amount? I don't know, like $3 more trillion. Like
Three.
we don't need a threshold. We read evidence saying that Social Security will like eat up the United States federal government's debt, or will cause more debt for the federal government. That will reduce our ability to borrow from people. That will constrain our ability to spend more in times we need it, like crisis response scenarios.
10 minutes.
Wally, one more question. What does normal means for the actor of the plan?
The federal government.
Okay.
7:46. I'm gonna send this out. Okay, the two ones you should be sent. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna wait. Thanks.
You have an order while we're waiting for people to get back.
What's up?
You have an order while we're waiting for people to
The
get
K.
back.
Are you sick?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sinai's roommate is also sick.
Yeah. It's a lot better. Like yesterday I couldn't like speak like
Oh, really?
at the end of
Yeah.
session. So
I had like more hard resets while speaking than normal
Yeah.
yesterday.
You normally do like once to and but like yesterday, it's a side goal.
there was also Jake Lee, and then I was just like I couldn't. Words were not coming out. So it was just,
Yeah. My jaw like stopped working the other day while I was speaking.
What?
My jaw.
Oh.
It's just weird.
My parents were saying like before the round started, like what the
I haven't talked to my parents in like a week.
Yeah. And they were like, is it being live streamed? Can you get the link?
Russell, do you want to go get our other charges?
Yeah, they're just kind of.
I think I can hear them.
They're outside. I think.
There's barely a local circuit now. Yeah.
We have 7:46 left.
Oh, shit. You said 7:46 left?
Yeah.
I thought it was really wanting to watch.
Very good. The order is just the K.
Okay, I'm good.
I'm gonna move this chair. One second. Everyone good to go?
Would you advise a sheet for the overview?
No.
No.
That's my answer.
That's a smart answer, the right answer. Everyone good to go?
Yeah. And your audience.
The K outweighs one magnitude. Economic rationality causes continual liberalism, mismanagement policy guarantees societal collapse through ecological overshoot, war, and economic shock turns the case. The economy being too weak when a government feels like it nationalizes the separation of economic legal policy makes every crisis more likely to escalate to inevitability. Contemporary jurisprudence is unsustainable. Economic collapse via financialization, state collapse via demoralized populations, pursuing populists, and lack of international coordination ensures minimal enforcement for the Plan 2AC1's framework. The role of the negative should be disprove the scholarship produced by this new research project, specifically through links intrinsic to the 1AC's topic-specific method solves fairness and class. We exclude random critiques of irrelevant random words or phrases when said focused debate on predictable educational economic concepts at the root cause of fiscal redistribution method that outweighs one anomaly. Nobody believes in authentic legal change in work, which means traditional plan focus, doing over serial policy failure, class agency, produce nihilism. Slide 23. Neoliberal logic form going through the motions of legal zombie are believed to prevent political legal courts that left us with no sense. External shocks like these are resilient safeguards against such shocks. Many conflicts produce mythologies backed by anomaly and despair. Legal institutional education from field. If like real reconnaissance, it should be any greater changes than their challenge of micro institutions and try to underline the realm of politicals has been displayed by nihilism, permanent war, jurors, no presumed law rules, opinions, and within it so to exportability is grade 15. Given corporate diplomacy is reported search for the new waves of being in situation requires radical counter their abilities to make any that traditional counters with the opening destabilization habitual assumption to begin with the philosophies and acknowledge the progress after reaching beyond their tired culture, convinced that the broad ecological rights of philosophies of political cyber imagination, legal approaches to right should be understood as the decisive foundation of the crisis rise of global conception of the human three education. That's fall 21. Rejecting foreclosure of imagination, we cannot combining the ideas of policy and marginally driven national revolution party remain untouched challenges and separate structures and liberty of minds of ideological bias separation. How many of us all happiness and previously deemed impossible church to have gone use the napping attachment as little inside the anti-colonial similar practice but possible so history such a peaceful ending of the Cold War American defeat Vietnam War the possible has been artificially circumcised for foreclosures management features have been the key to British slavery and warfare foreclosures shortening the trouble vision and certain the limits of knowledge set boundaries limiting where you need a moral epistemology feasible different the status quo seems incapable to achieve the necessary we need to pursue desirable and mobilize necessary human specimen by the time the whole will perish. Now fairness 1 they're worse for after on exclusive plan focus and encourages word picks cross camelets 2 and T-taxes 2 requires the links to the plan that cause a race to margin ensuring fiat utopian walls which are worse 3 our model solves after theory comparison unlocks a broader lib base than plan comparison. Now they have access to more ground than the plan alone because any defensive economic rationality model is now offense 4 after I solves the Africans the first and last speech to pick the best defense if they want to see if they weren't prepared to defend it they shouldn't have read it. 5 Netflix outweighs fairness most encourage are written by conservative hacks the neg must be allowed to question the ass value system. 6 plan focus is arbitrary no resolutional basis for parametrics the only reason plans are predictable is common community norms. 7 predictability is bad faith empirically denied by decades of K to B. 8 reciprocity they could have read that reps advantage to preempt the K that unlocks new off ground including economic debates good. 9 no impact fairness is an impact in and of itself and if we would just we would just flip a coin reckon the game is good if impacts are perverse. 10 our impacts outweigh if fairness is internal length the only impact to debate is scholarship. 11 at worst unfairness is inevitable speed differentials resources and coaching assessing the threshold for fairness is arbitrary. 12 debate is globally unfair speech times equal ability present arguments prove even if we break the game to debate for the neg we're on both sides at an equal number of times. They say education 1 no we produce it better by creating large structural debates over competing worldviews. 2 the app narrows the debates a tiny tweet results in understood and useless debate. 3 education over individual hypotheses is bad it presupposes legal determinism. 4 T procedural and process counterplans make the impact inevitable. I'm going to preempt subject formation here because this is what the 1A will go for. Ballot solve 1 the 1A will go for competition and otherwise overcome everything. Our model of debate incentivizes research about economics and legalism over year forces debaters to understand the K. 2 if they win debaters are competitive that would drive them to research the method and learn more. 3 legal imaginaries that can cognitively transmit to affect experiences. Career 20 if replacing imaginary means creating and livable if you're going imaginaries cognitive affect structures constitute subject to resourceful institutions judicial systems and national narratives culture tradition central laws imaginary. 4 ethical standards winning our offense means our framework is morally even if you don't think MBA will change your minds you should not be a bystander. 5 consequentialism is bad it's immoral since it can't provide a justification for single people voting in election or reason that lying is bad if you don't get caught it's intrinsically wrong to upload epistemological foundation. 6 the 1AR will say double down that is unverifiably self-reporting the ballot sets a model and precedent for future for that the margins induces stronger methodological defenses. 7 all causes not relevant debate still has a major impact on our moral and intellectual beliefs. 8 is reciprocal the same way that the ballot operates as a corrective for fairness saying that an unfair 1AC should have been read a neg ballot acts as corrective for economic saying the economic balance the 1AC inculcation have been but they say perm do both. 1 is a severance the app increases our belief in economic rationality which is what the alternative seeks to get rid of. Only full transformation away from rationality solves. 2 vote neg on presumptions independent voting issue the app doesn't do anything to assume their models and predictions get followed 100% but fails to account for imperfections in economics. Perm do the alt severance cross-plot answers from perm do both. The next argument is a no link. There's a couple links. 1 that's a GDP link. 1 see Taylor's says global supply chain could be easily disrupted and trading per with the overhang of debt and defaults causing financial market disruption and global GDP to stagnate and turn negative. Using GDP as a measurement of economic power and success is misleading producing false rationality and making us believe in a utopia based on one approximation instead of understanding the economy's complexities and how other indicators aside economics play a role in informing us about the health of an economy. That alone produces stagnation, pandemics, and rising inequality, which turns case since we're over-reliant on indicators that turn out to be wrong. That's Terrasio 22. Economists do say the markets are omitted result was 07 adopting protective and adaptive omniscient outside of economists fail to account for their agency models are misleading people should be attacking as a utopia or your reason embracing approximation models are relying on microeconomic foundations, mechanization, and that serves to crowd out scrutiny. Their monsters are snowballing with the default control which creates everyone as a economy treating monsters not sure people are except for network race and technology leading people to reshape their preferences. Indicators like GDP outlive their usefulness recently the genocide and helping new recurring their goals hoarding their roles rather than entering behavior we face. The monsters ecological breakdown we face cannabis secular stagnation inequality authoritarian resurgence. 2 models link. 1 Kosherin says that the USC has a 150% debt to GDP and needs to borrow another $5 trillion or $5 trillion to $10 trillion or get people to hold that much more newly printed money to bail out once again and pay everyone's bills for a while. The idea that is expanding Social Security with a sovereign wealth fund can solve debt crisis is a joke. They assume that models developed developed by economic experts become representations of the real world. This creates an overly calculative mindset, preventing any radical changes. Turns the case since we never know how to deal with predictions. That's Horseshoe 22. Economic suffers from physics, a technique of modern economic thinking is generally highly simplified model reducing complexity. The first unquantifiable formulas of economic theory says the carried less of the performance. The tightness of the law manifests had doubled as sorting mechanism. The problem with this is that a false seems a lot likely to govern the social world. The assumption that economic models do a subtle ideological work by conflating distributed and predictive use of the model in public policy. Markets are right to be left alone with the model rather than a model in line with the world formulas. Democrats out the approaches to invest in logical breaker of equal seek to make the world better, more like an equation, methodological reflection, essentially regarding the ideological distortion. Empirical research has failed to find evidence for the self-evident relationship fields and usually maximize the character of home economize the dangerous solutions to be calculated out of hard decisions or even deduced out of disagreement. The next argument is that rational thought example 1, not carded. They need evidence. 2, our link arguments prove the app is specifically invested in rationality. 3, the point the neoliberalism and economics are not neutral. The point is simply that approaching the law as though it is nothing more than toolkit of prescriptive rules whose ultimate status is naturalized. Inevitability does not assume the endorsing alternative methodologies, envisions positive democratic arrangements for our economy's framework means the debate is solely a referendum on plans investment in neoclassical economics, even if we lose everything else. The next argument is that we link to it. 1, we don't link to it. The 2AC just says it links back to you without a warrant. 2, our alternative would exclude rational predictions as per the links evidence, so we don't link back to the next argument is that the links are caricature. 1, the card says that says economics does not require that people be rational. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't be rational. 2, does not assume the links about the models that we've read that the app specifically perpetuates. I get to read new cards if they blow this up. The last argument that they've made is that the alternative cannot solve. The alternative is to remap legal arrangements. Mapping out the law's power in the global economy enables us to dismantle hierarchies and instead build new modes of economic life and power away from the currently models and predictions we use to manage the system. Restraining things like capital flight and implementing go-slow provisions would prevent speculations made about markets and instead would make us aware about the market's complexities. Doing policies not in line with rationality solves the entirety of the app. Generating new legal common sense is sufficient to solve this. Proxy 21. Live in intersection crisis that arise from chronic failure of political institutions, law change, and anti-democratic constitutional law turning away from the conservative economic power structural inequality systemic problems. Hope is to replace common sense of legal scholarship with a new set of ideas. This produces policy experimentation. That's Roman 16. Expand agencies seeking alternative vehicles or action in cities for experimentation with actual to be for actual policy change can be established through a particular approach to the law. Priorities and synergies between arguments, regular changes, absent flow engagement with values approaches, risk following narrative policy signs, relativism linking, analysis to save some more inflation of the political economy. PerfCon will be in the webinar.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about the links. I don't really understand any of them. The GDP link, why does talking about GDP in the 1AC preclude using other economic indicators?
No, it's not about precluding using other economic. It's the fact that you use GDP as an indicator is bad. We've cited specific 1AC evidence. We've cited the 1AC.
Yeah, why is using GDP bad?
Yeah, it says that we've read evidence that says that GDP is a measurement of power, and GDP does not actually allow us to make, it does not assume the realities of what the economy looks like.
What?
So
GDP doesn't assume the realities of what the economy looks like.
Yeah,
that
so we've read evidence
feels
that
counterintuitive.
No, we read evidence. The Toronto evidence says that GDP as a measurement, I'm looking at the card right now, says that it makes us believe in utopia because of that one approximation. It also says that it does not allow us to look at the complexities about
Okay, so let's talk about the complexity link, because I feel like this is totally non-responsive to the app. The second advantage is like the economy is too complex. We don't know what's going to happen. The only way to solve that is a sovereign wealth fund, which stabilizes it, prevents like dangerous threats, injects resilience. How is this not a huge link turn to the cat?
The link turn argument was not made in the 2AC, should have made that.
This is new links in the 2AC. The 1AC was highlighted nothing, said nothing, but okay, go ahead.
It's not a link turn. 1. The second argument that we've made is a models link. We've cited the Cochrane evidence. It talks specifically about how the AFS mechanism for using, because the entirety of the 1AC is about, I asked you in 1AC Cross-X about the internal link to, and you said it was resolving the debt crisis. We've read evidence that says that, you've made assumptions about how debt and GDP currently operate. And how they coincide with one another. We have read evidence that says that the GDP is, and the models that the app currently uses are unable to, be a viable method.
Why is that a link? I don't understand how that contributes to like neoliberal discourses.
It's about economic models. The Toronto evidence is really good. It says that
what does mapping do to stop those models?
We stop using those types of indicators.
Okay, that is not an answer. The framework
yes,
page.
It is. We've read a link to
a lot of your offense is like neoliberal politics is bad. Why is your model uniquely key to like talking about that?
Why is our model uniquely key? Yeah, this is a couple pieces of evidence. We've read the framework interpretation at the top is about, having links intrinsic to things that the cards say in terms of economics that allows for bigger debates, not just about like sovereign wealth funds, but rather we are allowed to have debates about economics itself and how economics, economics good, bad debates. And how
Okay, the Schlag evidence is like lawyers and economists who are focused on like neoliberalism are bad. Why does debate produce that?
Why does debate produce
Why
that?
does our model produce that?
Yeah, we've read evidence. The evidence is specifically in the context of legalism. You've advocated legalism, neoliberal logics.
In what way have we advocated legalism?
That's the links. Do you want me to go through them again?
Okay, no, that's fine.
One hour was set during class. The order is very okay. Is everyone good for that long? States counterplan? Con counterplan? Then the core packing counterplan? Then the chords counterplan or like the Minnesota plan? Then the advantage counterplan? Then the politics decide? The SSA trade-off decide? T taxes? The CBO pick? And then the K.
I appreciate that you slowed down, but I probably messed this up anyway, so can we just read that back to you?
Sure.
States, con, hacking, courts, Minnesota, advantage, SWF, Johnson, SSA trade-off, T-tax, CBO, K.
Yeah. Okay, MBA good.
Yeah.
Panel good.
Yes.
Okay. States, part of not going for reject the argument of the team. Con do the same thing. In chirp, we get con for one opportunity cost test federal and its being predictable ground. They choose the best policy option, true predictability, it's rooted in the literature, and excludes all non-legal counterplans, 3 arbitrariness. They leave all process counterplans attack and cherry pick reasonability to reject the argument of the team. Deterrence is dumb. We have 2 more debates, and we're locked off in one of them. Packing could see the permutation, not going for it, reject the argument of the team. The Minnesota counterplan do the same thing as well. Advantage counterplan, same thing as well. Politics decide, concede no ousting and no Taiwan war, not going for it. The SSA trade-off decide, concede no terror impact, not going for it. T. Concede that, quote, reflecting how the budget actually works is the baseline for predictability. You are cooked on the CBO because our evidence is gas. Go there now. The counterplan solves the case we fiat that the USFG implements the plan, but pick out of the CBO being involved in the process of implementation, frame it through sufficiency, and the small solvency deficit, which the 2EC had none, is outweighed by 1% risk of the net benefit. The 2EC basically dropped the net benefit. Misallocation of funding outweighs on magnitude baseline budget by the CBO, ensures budgetary emergency and crises that challenge institutions, spurring financial instability, terrorism, ecological collapse, crop damage, and future dynamics, all cause extinction and turn the aft that's red burn. The Quran is warranted and causal. It says extinction. The CBO ruins federal budgeting and failed budgeting, directly causes our impacts. Even if you think the impact is bad, the 2EC had 0 deficits, default to us. The 2EC one is do the counterplan, it severs FR, that's a voting issue, makes the F a moving target, skirts out of that ground, and that offense and monopolizes the ground. FR is taxing and spending, that's Hicks from topicality. In case they try to crossify counterworthy, 1, no implication. Transfers are still the transfers of money, which requires the government to spend if they don't generate revenue from taxes. 2, prefer Hicks, he defines a term in the res. They just define redistribution. Taxing must be done by Congress. 17, the Constitution bestows the power to tax upon Congress. Any taxes passed through Congress through redistribution. Spending must be Congress. Still 11, the Constitution clause in the place the power of the person Congress nominates drawn, but appropriation made by law. Congress has the power to spend. The appropriation clause creates Congress the power of the person. The CBO provides cost estimates on every bill. The U.S. government will notate the CBO provides cost estimates on every bill to show how it would affect spending. The CBO also provides improbable estimates at committee level and other stages of the legislative process. The CBO is required by law to provide a cost estimate for every bill approved by the House or Senate. The only quote-unquote exceptions still involve the CBO. CBO required by law to produce a cost estimate for every bill that is approved by the House or the Senate. The exceptions are appropriations bills which do not receive cost estimates for whose budgetary effects. CBO estimates for the appropriations committee. The CBO is required by law to provide a budgetary benchmark for all fiscal policies. CBO 23 by law. CBO is required to historically baseline consisting of projection of federal revenue spending and deficit surpluses. Those projection by lawmakers with which benchmark consisting budgetary factors. Changes in policy prefer it. One, net ground competition must be based on definitional mandates. Any other model is arbitrary and unpredictable. Net ground outweighs new tiny social security asset linked to politics and econ, unlimited funding mechanisms, and structural alpha is proved. 2, educational model of competition incentivizes in-depth research of government systems and forces both sides to research how legislation would pass. No infinite picks. White House 23. The law requires the support to Congress. Updating budget estimates have occurred. The Central Financial Agency, LB, Department of the Treasury Bureau, the Fiscal Service Studio, then GAO. They say no spillover, yes spillover. Even sidestepping the CBO in one instance opens the door to the advance of better governmental budgeting response that's relevant. Effective budgeting occurs incrementally. Change the budget builds year by year, which enables better plans. Government adjust and update approach budgeting is incremental. The year's budget becomes the base for the next year's spending. The majority analytical attention focus on how to modify spending plan based on revenues. Incremental approaches workable with periods of stable expenditure and revenue growth. The intrinsic perm rejected. 1, it's intrinsic. It adds a new social security expansion not to the plan or counterpart tax, and they described it as another issue. That's a voting issue. Makes the F conditional. And then gradually extraneous advantages. 2, rejected for vagueness. The CBO produces budget estimates for every bill not specifying. Guarantees work murkiness. Guarantee a lack of involvement and express it in counternature of only functional alone. A net ground. Their model deletes function competitive picks and process which are key. The topic is huge and novel. Tiny new. Has to be elims, null, and cautionary. B, word scrambled under their terms. Has to be shuffled to add extraneous functions like shaving words off of advantage. C, education is relevant. Opportunity cost their term. The exclusive test of implementation due to semantics kills space over substance shifts will raise social word picks. D, decision making. Textual competition grows syntax and context, obscuring tear-downs and eroding policy analysis. E, perm, sexual competition deletes them because any words used to describe combining the plan and counterplan are draft for other text. No, offense or model prevents contrived fix and counterplans functioning identical to the plan. Last argument is the solvency deficit. The CBO is bad. Ignoring themselves. 1, biases and flawed assumptions. The CBO uses models that do not reflect how legislation behaves in the real world. Independently, there's projections suffer because they assume that public spending is only as half as productive as the private sector. In the private sector, that's constant. 2, manipulation. In SOT in 14, the reforms to the equation at the CBO allowed the improved process from manipulation. The one replace the landmark law was helped. The incorporation of class code and program was scored by the CBO, offering billions in savings list history. The savings accounted for the half of the total savings credit the ACA. The reforms designed to make Congress policy being more credible for the involvement of this policy. 3, lack of experience. Smith 21. The White House secretaries of the CBO does not have experience at almost revenue amounts. Capable of tracking down the wealthy. Tax sheets. 4, personal agenda. Smith 226. CBO is more interested in encouraging deficit reduction than accurate inside. CBO estimates are way too high. CBO overestimated interest by 160%. The CBO has another agenda overestimating. CBO provides ammunition deficit complaints.
So change the interp on the intrinsic firm to counterplans that could be functionally that compete off topic specific.
Interp, functional competition alone against new AFs, and it has to compete off of topic specific terms.
Like adopt,
job guarantee,
So
fiscal redistribution, etc. The critique. PerfCon, no link. The other business are even if arguments that they should lose, even if economic rationality works. The entire one and C was the K. The dissents were really elaborate turns case arguments demonstrating zero policy failure. Use negation theory. All we need to prove is that the app did something bad. The logic of Kondo means we can keep positions risk free. It doesn't prevent app contradictions or severance. The 1EC is a locus for contestation. They push remove even if the 1EC was unethical. It should be rejected. No violation. The 2EC means the 1 does not get any violations.
Uh, 709.
Yes.
709. Start.
It's the investment advantage. The critique.
You should.
Oh shit, I forgot. He's got.
Okay.
Investment advantage K.
Could you repeat that again? Sorry.
Investment advantage K. Okay, it's in.
How much prep did you all have left?
113.
On the K, are you going to framework first or are you going to other first?
Framework first. I have another sheet for this one. Front and back, actually. Pretty good.
And the 1 here is still valid. Oh, okay. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know that the FSOL's economic collapse through increased investment, which averts diversionary war and leadership turnover, both of which go nuclear. They also conceded long-termism, which implicate the K. The F inculcates long-termist thinking in economic thoughts, means we're able to better grapple with complexity. The K. Decide scenarios by the debating. That's the only fair way to do it to maximize clash. There's no need to default to meta-analysis of what economics is when you have a flow. You know that the F scenarios are true, and as per the entirety of the case being dropped in the block, you know that we solve it. They've read generic critiques of economics without grappling with the F framework, weighed the F against links to the plan's fiat implications and a competitive opportunity cost. Scholarship first moves to 1AC by unpredictably shifting the focus of the debates. The neg will turn defensive arguments into offensive arguments to proliferate case from any section of the library. That reaps the gain for the neg. No anonymity dissad. Debate cannot make us nihilistic. One, all causes like family, school, friends, religion have a larger effect on our personal beliefs. If your parents are nihilistic, you're going to be nihilistic even if you're optimistic in debate. Two, no one learns from debates. Voting neg causes us to internalize the losses of technical failure, not change our worldview. Read books for education, come to debate to have fun and be fair. Three, we don't believe arguments we make. If anything, them winning the link makes us naively optimistic because we invest too much hope in our ability to do things economically. It's certainly not a link to pessimism, no exportability. They're all proofs that can't explain any better how policies would look. We learn about complexity is a haiku and it doesn't explain what policy looks like. Post-alternative, no education, cross-life from above, and we don't foreclose imagination. We limit offense to links to the plan, which is more educational and solves all their offense because it ensures that it is germane rather than floating offense to the status quo. We'll concede from the 1 and R explicitly that models debates are dumb because we have 2 more debates this year. This answers the entirety of their push on the K. They can't set a model because Peninsula won't have time to change a single thing about their AF next round. We are not worse for AF ground, weighing the AF as a key internal link and certainty plus immediate deficits solve process counter plans, and they don't compete. Lit doesn't solve. People hating on economists far outnumber their defenders, and their interp allows worst case to scholarship. If it doesn't, it's entirely arbitrary and unpredictable. No AF choice, block out ways. AFs can't make mistakes, the block can. And if it prep's wrong, we have lives and we have to be neg 2. No neg flex offense. Stats are huge. And Jermaine counterplan solves it. It's not arbitrary. The resolution says USFG should. Not economists are dumb because some Ks might be predictable, but links to scholarship aren't and can't solve ground because we can't weigh the AF. Yes, fairness is an impact. 1, it's an intrinsic good in the game. Both sides expect the judge to evaluate the debate fairly. 2, it turns research. There's no incentive to learn in an unfair game. Unfair inevitable is irrelevant. 1, it's about this round. And 2, structural drivers are insulated from the ballot, so you shouldn't consider them. Concession answers ballot incentives and will internalize the loss as a technical failure. That was above. Also, answer the Greer evidence. Legal imaginaries in a broad context. Lawmakers and economists do not care about the policy debate K of the week. Senators aren't ethical. Fairness is, and they haven't won any offense. Doesn't justify not voting. Voting can actually have an impact on politics. Unlike this stupid K, it's not reciprocal. We aren't going for contrived offense premised upon silly spillover claims. Permutation do both. You can always sprinkle some new ways of looking at the world into the plan. Cross-ex proved this. We can obviously affirm increasing Social Security benefits while also affirming human happiness, which is the only example of the alternative given in the 1 and C. The alt is ideologically planned plus. They have no reason. The app is bad. Only reasons why remapping is good with zero explanation of what that means. There's no such thing as severing an effect of the plan. They said that it severs the fact that the plan causes us to become optimistic. It's also not presumption. The app isn't all about rationality. They haven't read links to this. GDP link is outrageous. Mahi conceded that it's not about foreclosing other models, so the perm should solve. And the app doesn't say GDP good for GDP's sake. It says it's good to prevent war, which they dropped. Doesn't produce stagnation. Long-termism solves. That was dropped in the block. No models link. The alt relies on them too. Things like quantifying human happiness, which is certainly rationalistic. No turns case debate doesn't teach anyone how to deal with predictions. Popular AI incorporation easily shorts swaths of information. Zing 23. Studies about market stealing, securities, institutions, services, data governance, deep learning models make effective accurate prediction of markets models. Forecast price macroeconomics include performance of output, employment prices, and interest rates. Learning about models. Mark that card at models. The all can't solve. You have no idea what or who remaps their ideas posts all or what remapping means. Policy experimentation is not explained with no offense or warrants. The best policy is to experiment with is the AF because they drop 2 advantages. The AF solves anyway. Mahi said the purpose of the alt was to worry about complexity. That's the whole point of economic long-termism. Also, the alt links includes rational calculus of avoiding an impact pit. No impact. The 1 and C evidence doesn't come close to saying the CBO drives this risk. Intervening actors check it and the plan solves them through crisis response. No spillover. The risk of the internal 0. They have read 0 cards explaining how the counterplan results in the CBO from being booted from fiscal policy. Kavanaugh card says nothing. Cross-apply deficits from the NGA counterplan. 1 is legal codification. The counterplan circumvents existing processes by excluding the CBO. Causes fears that the SDW is illegit. That decks is solvency. Perm to the counterplan. Cards prove the counterplan skips over critical parts of implementation. 2 certainty. The counterplan looks uncertain to investors, making it fail. Means no growth. Impact. There's no due to in our answer. They could have answered this when kicking the counterplan. All the perm to the counterplan cards prove the deficit. If the CBO is required for fiscal policy, then the counterplan solves nothing. If it doesn't, they vote half on the counterplan. None of the 1 and R cards say this. They say the CBO isn't great. None say the 2 implementation. Fiat guarantees effective passage of the plan and oversight of the sovereign wealth fund. Perm to the AF and the counterplan on Social Security. Wealth, no deficits, only functionally intrinsic, not a voting issue. If counterplans must be textually and functionally competitive, then this permutation is legit. No vagueness, specificity is solved by the perm text and net benefits. Or germane opportunity cost comparison and AF ground function only even with topic specific counterplans makes 1 penny less. Or plan plus counterplans competitive causes endless race to recycle if and it picks out a function infinitely regressing to overpowered generics with artificial net benefits that are about the AF topic specific is undefinable and arbitrary. Let the net get away with murder even if their interm is constrained. Ground is wrong. No following can't have words add functions. Limited test works. Text is clear. Their interm is more arbitrary. Scramble perms are incoherent. Write a better text or interm can only delete and duplicate once. You can't win on do both. The counterplans indistinguishable from the plan. Silly litmus test for competition.
746. It's turning. The argument on perm to the counterplan was just a deficit, was just a cross-half deficit, right?
Not necessarily. It's a double bind.
What is the double bind?
Either the CBO is required for the plan and the counterplan doesn't solve, or it's not and permanent the counterplan solves. Or permanent the counterplan is not theoretically illegitimate.
Just kind of stay.
Take your time.
Sorry. Can I just use yours and lower it?
Yeah. Size is probably the right height.
Oh. Thanks. The order is the K and the counterplan. Is anybody not ready to go? Okay. MBA flipped off with a new one that proceeded to make a bunch of arguments that are irrelevant to the debate because we fee out the entirety of the alpha substance. 2 AR is impossible when they've conceded the terminal impact and net benefit. The 1 AR just makes assertions about the card not having an impact, but they have not read carded evidence on this question about impact defeats. You should prefer evidence as opposed to a high schooler making an assertion. The net benefit outweighs baseline budgets by CBO, ensures budgetary emergencies and crises that pose a challenge to established institutions for financial stability, terrorism, ecological lapse, crop damage, and future pandemics, all which culminate in extinction. That's Redburn framing issue for why all of the deficits that they've cross-planned are non-started. 1, the counterplan fiats the plan it has. However, the actors that would implement the plan do the plan without the CBO. 2, the uncertainty deficit they break does not apply because they don't have evidence that says the CBO not being involved in the process the app is implemented and would cause new uncertainties that exist. But they have also dropped that the CBO is bad, which means the counterplan, which means the plan is more uncertain than the counterplan. It says that the CBO being involved in the process is prone to manipulation and cites the class program that the CBO being involved in, how the development of the program was ineffective because of CBO involvement. Also dropped the Smith evidence that the CBO is more interested in encouraging deficit reduction than accurate insight. Their estimates are always too high. It says that they've overestimated 106% before. No spillover, non-started. The counterplan is totally a new way of federal budgeting that gets used for the first time. That certainly spills over because we ignore the corrupt actor that provides cost estimates for every constitutional bill. They drop the Kavanaugh evidence that says the year's budgeting process becomes the one for the next year, and quote, political attention focuses on how to modify the spending plan going forward after changes. Perm to the counterplan, double bind doesn't make sense. I already answered the counterplan being more certain, but also they cannot go for a perm to the counterplan as an independent reason to vote affirmative when they've conceded all of our definitions that say that fiscal redistribution requires the CBO. All of our evidence, like the U.S. government manual of this, it's the most predictable because it says every instance of fiscal redistribution requires the CBO. Those will be impacted out below, but perm to the counterplan is not an independent win option because they do not extend standards nor answer our standards. Now, they also drop sufficiency framing, which means that we only need to win 0% net benefit, the intrinsic firm. Our interpretation is that counterplans must be functionally competitive and they must compete off topic specific terms in the resolution against new AF. That means that they can compete off things specific to this year's resolution on fiscal redistribution, adopt, enact, provide, etc. That takes out every argument all AF often since it's premised on the neg having infinite process counterplans. We don't allow counterplans that only compete off of certainty and immediacy, which leads to worse conditions. Consult, recommend, and delay counterplans. I mean, the AF cannot go for the neg allows infinite process counterplans by competing off of other terms. We give the AF teams good deficits against process counterplans like signal deficits, I-law deficits, Congress deficits, statutory deficits, etc. This is not an arbitrary metric because the resolution is determined every year, and there's new words that get put into the resolution, and we've cited the fiscal redistribution, which is specific to this year's resolution. Now, reject the intrinsic permeation. It adds a social security benefit expansion, which is not a function of the plan or the counterplan. Air neg. It's illegitimate because it adds unpredictable elements not in the AF or counterplan. Neither team must test solvency of them, and they permit the AF to win without defending the resolution. Kills neg ground, especially on Monday at the TOC, where AFs are new, bad, and unpredictable, and necessitating generics. 2, the perm is functionally intrinsic. Counterplan, it isn't CBO, not ACT, and over something. Breaking counterplans into parts is indefensible, infinitely aggressive, and justifies intrinsic perms that solve all disad. You could permit any advantage counterplan to eliminate politics by taking words out from the advantage counterplan and then passing as a bill. Neg ground outweighs, deletes every process counterplan on the topic. AF teams will proliferate infinite tiny social security and agency AFs and no link or watered down politics, econ, and trade-off decides because they're so small, which means neg teams will always lose to them without process counterplans. We need process counterplans. It's an impossible burden to expect neg teams to have germane counterplans to any AFs. Now, they say, quote, infinite recycled counterplans. 1, theory checks. The worst process counterplans will always lose to theory. 2, they have ground. There's so many deficits. That was above 3, neg ground outweighs, cross-apply from above 4. The examples they give are incoherent. Penniless wouldn't compete because no part of the plan mandates a specific amount. Penniless and the recycled paper pick are based off normal means. 5, they have no impact to this in the 1 AR, but if they go for it as a question of research. 1, fairness outweighs and turns research. Absent stable neg ground through process counterplans against tiny AFs. Neg teams won't have the incentive to research, so they'll lose to tiny AFs, which in turn causes AF research to become minimal and lazy. 2, process counterplans incentivize better AF research, forces 2H to craft their advantages in a way that defends clear mandates and core mechanisms. 3, no stale debates. 2Ns will always have to cut solvency evidence and new cards to defend why their process is applicable to the topic. They say objectivity, it's backwards. Put any word alone into Google and it'll pull up 50 50 dictionaries, each with 10 separate definitions. Functional competition requires the neg to define what the counterplan's function is early, which lets the app develop in-depth solvency deficits. Is all limited by the fact that we can't read counterplans that don't have solvency advocates. They say we can't move the words around. That's arbitrary, and there's no consensus over it. Look, concede it. There's no offense. Concede it, survation framing. Just a question of competition. Killing them on it.
Okay. 113. Yeah. Okay, advantage 2, then pick. It's advantage 2 in the pick. Okay, is everyone good?
Yeah.
Conceding the entire second advantage because it's trying to stop economic collapse. What I see evidence of sovereign wealth fund is critical to stabilize the economy to avoid impending factors that will doom economic growth. They can key to inject resilience and long-term thinking to the economy, which solves for economic decline that causes exchange to inevitable nuclear wars. It's a brand's evidence on the one I see is conceded, and it turns all their offense, which means that it outweighs the risk of internal net benefit when they've not read internal benefit in this debate, which means any risk of deficit means you vote F. CBO pick. There is zero impact in this debate. The 1AC card says nothing about the CBO causing deficit risk. It says those risks exist in the CBO. It's bad for policymaking, not that it uniquely causes them. It does not matter if we're not reading evidence, and you have not read any evidence either because your cards are so bad. That means they cannot solve any of their offense because it's irrelevant. But they also drop that there are intervening actors that solve their offense, but they not solve our offense because our 1AC impact say that intervening actors fail in the score, and only the plan sovereign wealth that is effective to solve that. They also drop that Christ stability on the first advantage solves all their offense on this page because it is a impact filter and solves if federal government injecting and adopting policy to solve all the risks that Chunar goes for, like warming, etc. of our middle class. The plan that solves over the first advantage, which means there's not an external net benefit on the case page. Now, this spillover argument is barely extended to the Chunar. There's not a reason why the Kahneman results in the CBO being excluded from future policy making. That means that cannot solve any of the internal net benefit. The Kahneman evidence is embarrassing. It does not say anything about why the Kahneman process results in the CBO being excluded from all policy making. That means it cannot solve any of the internal. There's not a risk of it, which means that any risk of a deficit outweighs. I'll extend to the deficit both were conceded in the block, and there's not any answer, which means the Chunar's arguments are now all new. The first is legal codification. The Tuisi or the 1AC FIF evidence says that empirically sovereign wealth funds that are not legally codified in the law will not be trusted by investors and will not be able to actually invest in the economy and solve stabilization concerns because firms will not trust them. That means they cannot solve any of the stabilization stuff, which is dropped in the 2 and R that. And the second episode I'll go for is a certainty deficit. The 1AC Hawkett evidence says that certain political process is critical to trust and transparency in the sovereign wealth fund, which means that if there's not enough transparency, will cause fears of the sovereign wealth fund being corrupt and the sovereign wealth fund just pocketing the money to get some investing, which will trigger both advantages because it cannot solve either advantage. Now, the 2 and R only answers are the 2 and R's answers are wrong. The Kahneman feels the plan is wrong because we've got evidence why the process of the Kahneman is bad. We're conceding all the permanent Kahneman arguments to prove that the CBO is required for policymaking in the plan. That means if they exclude the CBO, it will look like an uncertain process. No one will know what to do, which triggers all of our deficits. The CBO bad stuff is wrong. They concede if fiat solves it. Any reason why the CBO will cause manipulation is wrong because the plan ensures effective implementation. The Obama empiric is wrong. The Smith card says nothing. None of the cards that 2 and R extend to say anything about the CBO with direct policy making, which means the plan definitely solves way better than the Kahneman does. It means there's not a reason for the internal net benefit. Now I'll do extend the permutation here. Permanent dependent on other issues, those who see evidence says the social security wealth evidence that it's justified if we win the textual functional combination is good. The impact go for is AF-ground function only. It makes penniless counterments and other horrible counterments competitive the dex ground for the affirmative. We cannot generate deficits versus the counterments. If you think that we did not win the deficit debate, that proves that there's not a real reason why we can beat those counterments, because we literally wrote this after beat process counterments because of the process deficit had the legitimate picks out of the function of the plan, which are unpredictable, arbitrary, and you'll just recycle process counterments, which kills any topic-specific research that impact the kills off ground. Means we go 3-3 every tournament. We cannot win any rounds because of these process counterments become OP, that it does not snowball to any other process counterments, because we're not allowed to add new words. We're only allowed to subtract words from the counterment text. Now the 200 framing issue is that they only allow these counterments that are specific to the topic and that are against new apps. This is arbitrary. They dropped it in the 200. The 1 hour specifically said that their interpretation is arbitrary and will lead to the negative, just making debate impossible for the app, because they'll keep changing their interpretation to make it more and more undebatable for the affirmative. The certainty immediacy stuff solves is wrong. If you don't vote again on the deficits I did above, it proves that we cannot win on the deficit. That means all the 200 examples like ILO and other things are fake because they cannot solving them, and now the FR stuff, expansion stuff, is not relevant to what our specific argument we're going for. The scramble perms is solved by better text writing, and the function stuff is solved. Now we cannot permute any advantage counter. You can just write the text better to avoid us permuting out of things like nuclear war. Now the net ground stuff, they've conceded that distance exists for every part of the topic. The 1 hour very good defense on net ground, that makes this made impossible for them to win, because they've dropped things like the econ, the politics is that the SSA pick and SSA trade up decide, check back every affirmative machine. There's not any process counterments of proofs that the next team will not always lose because there's enough ground on this topic for them to solve. Now their cycle stuff is wrong because their interp does not solve it. Now the deficits do not solve it. That was a grab. Net ground does not outweigh. We read a claim that the negative has sufficient ground. Now the only risk of you unbalancing the topic is voting negative by affirming process counterments. The penniless example does apply to them because their model is just functional combination, which means the penniless is still competitive under that model. Yes, impact in the 1 error there. The fairness is not outweigh research. We're not going for the research impact, so that's irrelevant. Now the objectivity stuff I did not extend, which means that Afghan definitely outweighs the forces to a craft. The forces to a argument is wrong because our interpretation is better for affirmative research, because there's no way to predict what kind of counterments you'll debate, which means that we can debate over economic policy, over the economist side, politics side, which are the core of the topic.
You still get banned the plan counterpoint.
Yeah, you still get banned the plan counterpoint. Solves all your negative ground off.
Which is
ours.
unfair.
Or which is unfair. Ban the plan counterpoint is bad. Just fight under there.
Good debate.
Good debate. That card opposite.
Do you want half cards?
Sure.
Okay.
go.
Okay, my fault. We have everyone? Congratulations to both teams on making to the quarterfinals, the tournament champions. The decision is a 2-1 for the affirmative. I sat. I want to preface by saying the other two judges are much better at debate than me, and there might be something I totally missed. So at the end of this RFD, I might just feel like I was wrong. I thought the counterplan solves 100% of the case. It has an internal net benefit that is comfortably more than 0% risk, and I thought the neg was ahead that intrinsic permutations are not justified. The counterplan fiats the AF insofar as Congress just passes the act, but without the CBO budget analysis. I thought there might be more of a deficit, like this 2AR deficit might make more sense if the counterplan just like fiats agencies and like the executive branch does the act, but without the law. But I went back and like the 1NR language was like the counterplan does the act. The 2NR definitely explicitly says we just fiat the act through. Maybe I'd be sympathetic if the 2AR was like, you're just agencies, you're not Congress, you're not an act of law, but I concluded based on the 1NR and 2NR wording that Congress still does the law, just without the preceding part that's like the CBO analysis. Once that's the case, the 2AR's solvency deficits don't really make sense because they're about legal codification, stuff like that, which the counterplan still does. The certainty stuff, or the credibility stuff, the haptic card, is not really about Congress. It's just like sovereign wealth funds should be insulated from elected officials, so that's like irrelevant whether it's executive agencies or not. So at that point, I thought these deficits were zero. No solvency deficit meant that the internal net benefit just needs to be, I think, more than 0.1%. I thought you mitigated it, but it's nowhere close to 0%. I thought the best spot where you had some defense was that the counterplan might not spill over the future budgeting, but like it also might. So I don't know if I'm just like 50-50 this. They have an explanation that's like the AF will be really big, so not doing it over the AF means it sends a signal. Plus, the AF has to get redone every year, so they redo it based on the previous year. So if they didn't do it the previous year, the inertia would be towards not using the CBO again. So at least in the instance of the AF, it's not done. The impact defense portion I thought was not useful at all. The Redburn card, their like 1NC laundry list card, is very similar to the 1AC laundry list card about crisis response. It's kind of the same like laundry list. And so 2AR defense on things like intervening actors, I think definitely cuts both ways. And it's not a thing that the AF solves, but the net benefit doesn't. I thought intrinsic permutations are not justified. I thought the neg has, part of this is like filtered through the lens of the neg just has a pile of cards that are like topic terms that are like FR has to be Congress, if Congress has to be CBO. The language is really powerful that it's always tied to CBO. All that makes me feel like this is maybe less of a sort of generic process kind of plan and more like a test of the resolution, like the AF should be able to predict it, etc. I thought the neg interp to limit to competing off of resolution of terms against new AFs mitigates some of this. It's an arbitrary interp, I suppose, but to me all theory interps generally are arbitrary, so I don't know why it wouldn't just be like this is good, but then another one is worse. I just don't know what the impact of arbitrary interps is. I thought even if intrinsic permutations were good to check like certainty and immediacy type kind of plans, the neg interp already precludes them, but allowing the AF to get those intrinsic permutations is comparatively much worse for neg ground because it leads lots of disads, other kinds of good kind of plans, etc. So the damage to debate in terms of allowing these kinds of intrinsic permutations is comparatively worse than just allowing this kind of plans. Maybe a thing that the neg should say in addition to theory is that maybe you should have a substantive deficit to the intrinsic term. The CBO is already involved. I assume it's going to be involved in reauthorizing or reallocating the funding from the AF going forward. But you've got evidence that it is really poor crisis response, which means it's not an internal net benefit. It is literally a DA, or it's like a Turner's case argument, right? So it's like you can't execute properly Advantage 1 if the CBO is involved, which means that doing the AF but then excluding the CBO from something else does not solve as well as excluding the CBO from the AF. Maybe that would make this intrinsic permutation go away without relying on theory.
How much do y'all want to hear?
I'd like to hear it.
Sounds good. I will say this debate was like sick. The 2NC was phenomenal, like incredibly technical. You made the 1AR like a complete nightmare. The 1AR like recovered very effectively. There was like a lot of strategic decision making. The 1NC was like extremely just like a lot of awesome stuff going on. You all are like, you should be proud of your performance. You all are very talented. I wish I judged you all more over the course of this year. I hope you all stick around for the debate in college because the presence of people like you it's like you all are the like thing that makes this community go, and I hope you all stick around, and I hope to see more of you later. I voted AF on substance. I agreed with Yao Yao's assessment of the firm. I probably would have voted neg if it could come down to the intrinsic permutation. The problem for me, and the main thing that didn't show up in Yao Yao's decision, is this argument about how the AF fundamentally reforms the way that economic decision making works throughout the economy. This is an argument that is like clearly flagged in the 1AC. It's flagged in the 1AR as being a thing that solves the terminal impact of the net benefit. That is not a thing that I have an answer to in the 2NR other than CBO is bad at their job, which I'll talk about in a second. And then the 2AR extends that as like a thing that solves. And it's like, I could imagine and write in some distinctions between how these things go about solving the economy, but ultimately both of these get to like a pretty general like word cloud, bad problems coming, good decisions solve them type of discussion. And I think that like one way that I could read into this potentially is that your card definitely is about the importance of federal budgeting, and they're a little bit less explicit as to why their spillover argument influences that. But like none of that is really happening, and so like there's this conceded argument that to me is enormous net benefit mitigation, because even if I don't vote for the counterplan, the largely same profile or like palette of risks is probably going to be solved through the changes to risk planning that result from the app incorporating long-termism into people making their decisions. So the big cut that you have against this is the CBO is bad at their job. And the fundamental problem for me is like, I think you're overwhelmingly winning that the CBO is bad at their job. What to me, you're not even really advancing an argument or like a warrant for is how that could possibly implicate anything about the case. I like scoured my flow for a reason for why that would be true, but the app is giving me judge instruction that is just like there's an advantage it is dropped. With respect to the K and the 1AR, they have this judge instruction that is like vague applications of like general process flaws or like epistemological issues are not a thing that I should just like zap the case on given the specificity of the app internal link evidence. 2AR applies this, and like, you know, from that perspective, it's like, I feel like I would need something pretty specific or like pretty concrete or just like something to turn to them to be able to say like how it could possibly be the case that the CBO being bad at predicting, ultimately like what the CBO is doing and what your cards are really good at saying that the CBO is bad at is projecting how much stuff is going to cost, right? And how it could implicate any solvency argument that the AF made that the government didn't know in advance what its cost versus benefit would be is not, like, I would have trouble constructing a sentence that explains why that is the case. So, given all of that, I think that, you know, the AF is big, the net benefit is relatively small because voting AF solves for a lot of the same impacts as voting for the neg to solve the internal net benefit. And I don't have an explanation of why like the mere presence of the CBO is so catastrophic that it overwhelms the presence of good risk decision making throughout the entire rest of the economy, which is the magnitude of the conceded spillover argument. I agreed with Yao Yao that the no spillover cut to the net benefit was relatively small. The like main mitigation that I'm voting for is ultimately this, and I agree that you get your terminal impacts because, you know, 2EC coverage. So do I think that there is a solvency deficit is kind of where this comes down to. And I think that the answer is yes, it's very small. I agree that you do the same policy. the consistent framing from the AF has been that the context within which the sovereign wealth fund operates influences its political credibility with respect to external actors, and the impact of that, unlike the impact of the CBO being bad at their job, is very directly connected to a case impact, which is its ability to diversify its assets across borders influences the degree of its penetration in the global economy and its ability to de-risk global markets and its ability to induce behavioral change across the entire world. So, you know, they have some pretty good cards that are just like, if there are shenanigans afoot, basically, if the term that their cards connect this to is politicization. Like, the 2AR, that's like, the 2AR and 1AR, you all obviously could have been way better at the link debating to the certainty thing, but again, ultimately, your main answer to this is just to say that, like, the CBO makes it more uncertain because the CBO is bad at their job. But again, I don't really know why the CBO being bad at their job means that the sovereign wealth fund is perceived as politicized, and that means that the sovereign wealth fund doesn't, like, operate effectively. Whereas I think that their argument is that if it is true that every single time Congress passes a bill, it is vetted and scored by this agency, like, the agency screws it up most of the time. They're, like, terrible at it. They have no idea what's going on. But it's, like, a departure from that norm of doing things to suddenly pass this thing that is seemingly very important without going through that process that is established for the scoring of government bills. So that's kind of why I thought that the net benefit, or the solvency deficit, was like a little bit bigger than zero. Once the link to the net benefit is a little bit bigger than zero, the internal link and impact to the net benefit are very large. And I thought that if they solve the case, that solves nearly all to all of the impact to your net benefit, and so F.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think, I'll start by saying, like, this was a very good debate, a very close debate. Like, I think a lot of these issues were kind of decided on the margins. Like, Block was really, really good. And I think, like, debating a new AF, debating, like, it was very good, very technical speeches, and yeah, it was very, very good debate to judge, and I hope you all continue debating in college. I voted AF on, like, pretty similar decision, like, certainty deficits outweighs the CBO bad net benefits of the counterplan. The few places where I differ, I might add, is one framing issue for me was I think there's just like a disconnect between the description of the counterplan you're advancing to answer like no spillover, and from view the counterplan is like the counterplan is this completely unprecedented process. It's like totally different than how the U.S. has ever done a budget reform before. And then like the certainty deficit by saying like the plan is basically the same as the counterplan. I think they're like conceding the former explanation to get access to the certainty deficit about how like the political context of the implementation of the sovereign wealth fund and the role of the counterplan would be different. And honestly, I struggle mostly on the fact that I don't think the 2AR is at all very good at explaining this certainty deficit or internal link or impact to it. It is mostly it is due to the fact that like the neg has kind of conceded the premise of all of these cards earlier in the debate and has gone for mostly like CBO worse as an internal link turn to certainty rather than actually answering the premise of why certainty is key to the AF. But like there is another world in which just like the explanation is just not present even if it is in the cards. And then the other thing was a little more persuasive to me, just like 1AR, 2AR indicts to the like impact card. And I mean I think like, you know, part of this is mitigated by what the 2AC said on it, but like I do like I've read this card a few times. I can't really, and like in the 2NR either, I can't really explain why like the CBO or lack thereof is key or really critical to any of these scenarios like crop damage and future pandemics, and so like I think this is like some mitigation to like the terminal like word cloud impacts in this debate. And everywhere I struggled with the 2AR articulation of the certainty deficit, I just framed it through the fact that I can't really like clearly explain like why the CBO or lack thereof is critical to any of this either. The perm, I didn't evaluate it, but I might have been a little more AF than the other two judges, just because I don't think the neg is great defense to like this particular interpretation is arbitrary and AF-ground standard, but I didn't really think about that too much.
I know you probably need to go. Something maybe you could add on the perm. So they've read a bunch of topic cards. They're like the counterplan's competitive. The issue is that the counterplan is still topical because they're like Congress. You have to be Congress. The counterplan is still Congress. That makes sense. So it's not like the topic requires this. We've departed from the topic. So it's actually a topic counterplan, which is the way they framed it.
Not going for Burma the counterplan is like the only thing the 1AR said was like a catastrophic error. Like I thought you were done once you like barely extended term to the counterplan. The way to frame this question is do countries that don't have a CBO engage in fiscal redistribution? Yes, duh.
Yeah.
Imagine a U.S. in which there was no CBO. Would there still be fiscal redistribution? Yes, duh. Like, I don't even think you need a card. And like the intrinsic burn, like, fuck that. Like, all in on burn through the counter plan. Like, this isn't. Sorry.
I have two questions. First one, I think the tuner at the top main argument was that the reason CBO bad matters is because it makes the plan look less certain than the counter plan. And I think you were saying how things were not contextualized to their offense. I guess how did you evaluate that? And my second question is, like, sufficiency framing, was that just like
Well, so given the map, so I'll start with the second thing because that's a bit like cleaner, which is that I think sufficiency framing begs the question of whether they have impacted the differential between the plan and the counter plan, and they have read 2 cards worth of impact about the significance of certainty. This, like, sufficiency framing is why I described the solvency deficit in terms of, like, they actually have an argument that is connected to an impact. So, like, agree you get that. I don't agree that your counter plan solves it sufficiently, given, like, right. For the former, I think my big issue with that is, I definitely have you saying that the CBO being bad at their job implicates certainty. I just don't really understand why that would be true from a politicization perspective, and there's, like, never really an explanation that is given for that. And it kind of loops back to the thing I was saying at the beginning, which is like what I would need from a 2NR that effectively applied these arguments to the case would be like a pretty detailed, just like, here are the people who look at us passing a bill the way it's apparently always done, and would think that because the CBO is there, the sovereign wealth fund is so politicized that investment wouldn't occur. I think that doing abnormal stuff is a much larger internal link to uncertainty than the CBO inaccurately projecting the cost of the sovereign wealth fund.
I guess, why does the manipulation stuff not answer the politicization argument that you're referencing?
Like, I think I think you have a lot of places where I could take stuff that you said and I could apply it in a lot of these, I could apply it to a lot of the stuff that they've said, but like, I think that the 2NR just basically doesn't, like, you say the word manipulation, but like the explanation of why the CBO being bad turns the case is like extremely brief. And like, I understand why you're doing that, and it's like, from your perspective, I imagine that you're looking at the flow and you're seeing like they have not answered the factual arguments that the CBO is extremely bad at making projections, so not a lot of explanation is required. And I agree that not a lot of explanation is required to establish the premise that they are not very good at making projections. The place where I would need a lot more explanation is a place where like the block was very light and not very specific, the 2NR then became very light and not very specific on just like what the implication of those arguments is for the for the purposes of the solvency episode.
What do you think I should have said instead? Because I have it that I said that like the CBO being involved in the process is prone to manipulation incites the class program that the CBO was involved in and how the development of the program was ineffective. I guess what needs to change with that explanation?
So describe what the manipulation is.
In the context of the app.
Yeah, or even in the context of this class work, because like I don't really know what manipulation means. Like I guess people like I read through the card. As far as I can tell, it says that like this says there are inaccurate rules guiding the projections, and those resulted in the CBO like applying those rules to create savings that didn't really make sense in the context of the thing that they were forecasting.
Yeah.
Like, again, this all loops back to the point that I was saying at the beginning, which is like ultimately I think that the implication of all of this for things other than inaccurate cost forecasting is not super clear. Or like another way of saying this is like I think you have effectively won that the cost part is manipulated rather than the program is manipulated. If that makes sense. Like I think there's a disconnect.